Yes, YouTube, how are we all doing? So I'm back with another video, and today we're going to look at my top 4 favorite ways to make glitchy percussion sounds. Okay, so we're inside Ableton as per usual, and we're going to have a look at my 4 favorite ways to make glitchy percussion sounds. So the first one that we're going to have a look at are creating our own glitch perk racks and then modulating them to get unique effects. So if I open up this one here, we've got several different ways that we can do this. Now, the first thing that you're going to have to do is create your own perk racks. So the best thing to do for this is to go to the drum section in Ableton, and then up the top there you'll have drum racks, which will be an empty drum rack. Then I would suggest searching glitch within inside Ableton, go into all, and then just cycling through all the one shots you have, all the ones you like, put them all in a drum rack, save the drum rack as your own drum rack, and then you're good to go. So for the first one that we're going to have a look at, both stock Ableton plugins, an arpeggiator and the random. So to make this work, you're going to have one sustained note. It doesn't matter what note in here that you sustain, but it needs to be sustained. Now, if we go into here, we can have a look at Ableton stock random first. So the random, it is what it says. It literally randomizes a sound. So if I play it now, it changes every single time I'm pressing play. Now, obviously, we've only got the one note in here currently, so we're not getting any sequences. That's where the arpeggiator comes in handy. So your arpeggiator is now going to repeat on the 16th or the 8th or whatever timing that we set it to. And then depending on the style we have, it's going to vary through our perk racks in different ways. So I'm just going to turn off a random to demonstrate this. And I've got it set to style random as well. And you can literally just see that the arpeggiator is on the 16th note, is bouncing all around the drum rack. So you just want to pay attention to this bit here where my mouse is. And it's just creating randomized sequences. There's only 8 steps though, so that's why it can get a bit repetitive. But that's where the random feature comes in handy, because we can turn on this and then that randomizes the steps as well. So using an arpeggiator and the random sequencer is a really interesting way because it's just creating randomized modulated perk grooves. Now, it can sound a bit messy if I just play this with the beat that we've got. It's a bit too intense because there's too much going on, too much random modulation. That's where resampling, whether it's MIDI or audio, comes in handy. So we have a look over here. We've got audio resample and a MIDI resample. So what we need to do for this, we need to go down to the audio channel and go audio from, and then we can change this to resample. Our MIDI resample, we don't go to the audio from, we go MIDI from, and then we're going to change this to arp/random. Now, if I record enable both of these at the same time by right-clicking here and turning off this, there we go, and I solo this, and I record both of these. Now what we've got is we've got that bounce down to the audio file, so I can manipulate that like any other sample, or if I wanted to, I've got the MIDI of it as well. So if I went into this ARP, turn off for ARP and turn off for random, and drag this MIDI, and now we press play on the ARP, we've now got the sequence that ARP and random was generating. So then from there, we can take a listen to this in our groove and then turn off, move stuff about, and get it sounding a bit more like a groove instead of just so many random sounds playing off each other. So easiest thing to do first is go to fold. So now we're folding everything down, so we've only got the notes that was playing. We can deactivate this pretty much this whole top row because they were notes that weren't even playing, as they're just keys, not even the samples. And now we can sort of fine tune it and get the loop that we want. So then I could turn this off, and I can like that one, but maybe it's just in the wrong place. Deactivate those. I could shorten this loop down. And there we go. Quite quickly and quite easily, I've got a loop that was generated that I didn't have to come up with, that may spark further inspiration, and it's all there that I can manipulate. I could duplicate this now, add in an extra sound, and it's very easy to evolve this over time. Now, there are other ways that we can do this too. We can use Sting. By now, I'm sure you know what Sting is. It is a acid generator. So it's doing very, very similar things that the ARP and the random one is. So it's probably just a bit easier and quicker and efficient to use because all you got to do is turn Sting on and then just hit the smiley face. So that's quite cool. And then we could do the same thing again, bounce that down to audio. There we go. We've got an audio file now, so we could turn this one off. From there, we can manipulate the audio file. Again, a very efficient way of just trying to make some glitch sounds without having to do too much work. And then finally, we have the note echo variation. So the note echo is effectively an echo, but it echoes the notes. Is slightly different to the standard echo. I find it's much kind of tighter to use. Now you've got to combine this with a sequencer. So you could use Sting, that is a sequencer. You could use the ARP and random that we just used. Or you could use this one, which I believe is stock Ableton. You probably just got to have the sweet version for this, which is the melodic steps. So this one's really cool because you can just randomize and change up the sequencer. So you just right click on these bars to turn them on. And then you can click this button here, which just randomly generates new patterns every single time. And obviously it changes all the velocity as well. So you could control all of this. And where the note echo really elevates this is by the pitch. So we can adjust this and you get some really unique effects. It gets pretty wild, pretty intense, so it's definitely one of those ones that you've just got to sit there and experiment with, but nevertheless, still something that's definitely usable within production. Okay, so we can move on to the second one now, which is slices. Slices is definitely my favoured way of building out glitch percussion. I naturally enjoy playing stuff in on my Ableton Push or a MIDI keyboard. I find I can hear sounds and then be able to translate that with a MIDI keyboard compared to randomly trying to generate stuff and that sparking inspiration. So for the slice, it's really, really simple. So you just find a bunch of your glitch sounds in sample packs, pop them into a MIDI channel, and then turn on the slice feature. So now if I hit on my keyboard, I've now effectively got a variety of different samples from one loop that I can then play in to my own desire. The best way I find for this to work is you just get a variety of different loops and you just cut bits out of it, and then you're just generating your own glitchy percussion loop. So in the end, after 6 loops chopped up, I ended up with something like this. And then the groove. Again, another really easy and simple way to build your own glitch percussion loops without just relying on the loops themselves. Okay, so now we can move on to number 3, which is the vocoder. Now, the vocoder is basically a kind of trigger setup within audio files. So what you need to do is you need to have a audio track with a vocoder on it, and then with an audio loop of your choice. What you're mainly looking for here is actually the pattern of the loop, not necessarily the sound. So I've just got 3 examples here. So we've got this one, and this one, and that one there. And then we've got our other loops on this section here. And what we're going to end up doing with the vocoder is turning this one on, changing our carrier to external, and then going audio from channel 25, which is our trigger loops. So then this is going to trigger the vocoder. So then we're going to get the sounds pop through that are on channel 25, coming through on channels 24 pattern as well. And you can kind of get this really unique sound if you choose the right samples. So I'm going to play both of these two. So you can start to see how the sounds of this loop is then playing with the drums, and they're kind of merging together in this really unique way. I can do the same on these ones as well. You can also play around with the settings inside the vocoder as well. And then we've got another one down here. So that's our trigger. And then that's what we're actually ending up with. Which sounds sick in the loop as well. And you can always mix and match these as well. They haven't been perfectly paired up. You can then manipulate the loop where the audio is coming from as well. So you can have a lot of fun with that one, and again, really simple to do. Now moving on to the last technique for glitchy percussion. This is a rack by Project Bass that I was kindly given. I would recommend checking out their stuff. Their sample packs are pretty cool, and this glitch generator as well is pretty cool as well. So if we just turn this one on, you'll just hear exactly what it does. It is a random glitch generator. God knows what's going on inside of here. I have no clue. This kind of sound design stuff is beyond me. But it's definitely usable. You can obviously try and learn all the parameters yourself. It's not something that I've done. I just favour actually using the random button, like on most of these stock Ableton racks. You can just click here and it just changes the parameters all the time. And then what we can do is, like we were doing within the perk rack, we can resample this. So we've got it to audio. And then just to show you how all of these can interlink, we could go into a MIDI channel, drag and drop this sample, and go into slice. And then I've got that resampled loop onto the slice now, which I could then play in on my MIDI keyboard. Or what you can do is you could slice it down to a drum rack by going slice to new MIDI track. And then we've got all of those slices, and if not more than what was on our MIDI slice channel, all within a drum rack, which then we could go into and apply sting. And then we could resample this down to audio again, and you can kind of just keep on going around in this loop of resampling, slicing stuff up, and it's a really good way of actually creating unique sounds, but without having to spend too much time trying to synthesize them yourself. So there we go, that is the end of that video. So I hope you guys found that one super useful. I really enjoy making that one, and I think there's some really good creative techniques that can be applied to glitch percussion, but also could be applied to drum programming, or maybe even making synths as well. Anyways, I will see you on the next video.